You're listening to the P.A.C.E Radio Network here at PACERadio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
Good morning. It's November the 25th, and welcome to Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News, live here at PACERadio.net. Good morning, Rev Cindy. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Al. How are you doing this morning?
I'm a little blinded.
Blinded by the light, yes.
Blinded by the light. Exactly. But other than that, I'm all right. You know, it could be a lot worse, right? And yourself?
It's not a bad Monday morning. I slept in, which was really weird.
Yeah.
I woke up and I'm like, oh my God, it's like 9:15. It was, but yeah, I guess I needed it. I went to bed last night at 9:30 and woke up at 9:15 this morning.
Wow, almost 12 hours in sleep. That's yeah. Well, that's the way I look at it too. You get that because your body's telling you that you need it.
Yep. Yeah, it kept me there. So I must have needed it. And
there you go.
Yeah.
Revitalized, all ready to do the news. All right, here we go. First story is up.
Okie dokie. Coming to us from the CBC, we give up. Illegal magic mushroom chain Fungi's closes all 30 locations.
An illegal magic mushroom chain called Fungi's has indefinitely closed all of its 30 locations across Canada. A spokesperson for the stores who identified himself as Chris Stewart says they've been raided over 120 times.
Wow. We give up. Thank you, and you guys accomplished your task, he told the CBC News, directly addressing the police officers involved in the raids across the country. A majority of the 30 Fungi shops were located within Ontario in cities like Toronto, Ottawa, Cambridge, London, and Windsor. There was also one location in Montreal.
They, which are the police, have taken products, shut down warehouses. We're talking over $1 million worth of product, Stewart says. It's hard to keep going. We give up.
Yeah, in May, a newly opened Fungi's location in Chatham, Ontario, was raided by police just days after opening. The police service there said they would remain committed to actively combating unlawful businesses. It is important to note that the possession, sale, and production of magic mushrooms, psilocybin, and psilocin are illegal, the Chatham Kent Police said.
In April, Waterloo Regional Police raided a shop in Kitchener, Ontario, and it reopened just 2 days later. And in July of 2023, Montreal Police raided a store selling illegal hallucinogenic mushrooms on the same day that it opened.
There are just three examples of these are just three examples of the multiple raids that took place at Fungi's locations across the country. After a store is raided and shut down, it would promptly reopen about a day or two later before being raided by the police again. Stewart said the store closures have put over 50 employees out of work. He says in addition to that, they have been getting many worried phone calls and emails from customers.
Yeah, he says they're kind of panicking. We built a reputable name and people trust Fungi's. Stewart says they tried to retain customers by selling products online at discounted prices. He says there are no plans to shut down the online store.
He says he's hoping the closures will free up police resources. Causing Fungi's to shut down is not bringing any of the serious problems we have on these public streets off the street, like opioids and stuff that are actually harmful to people and kill people, Stewart said.
He's right. Of the 30 stores, 10 shops were located in Toronto. CBC News reached out to the Toronto Police Service, which responded back to say, we don't have any comment on this. Now, CBC News has reached out to the Waterloo Regional Police Service for comment, but did not hear back in time for publication.
Andy Hathaway, professor of sociology at the University of Guelph, says there are a lot of lessons to learn from cannabis when it comes to the potential legalization of magic mushrooms. It's somewhat reminiscent of the early days before cannabis legalization, where there were a lot of outlets, retail outlets operating, some above board with the full knowledge of the police, and some not so much.
Yeah, he says fungi may have pushed an envelope a little too far by opening too many locations. He says that he's noticed that there were 10 in Toronto alone. That seems like a lot to me, Hathaway says.
Yeah. He goes on to say, recognizing that this is a province with a conservative government, it would be interesting to see if there were any variations by province depending on what government was operating at the time. Hathaway says there may be many benefits to legalization, especially when it comes to consumer safety.
Well, he says that whether you're talking about club drugs or cannabis or mushrooms, the more underground it is, the less reassurance you get that you're actually getting what you're paying for.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. Interesting, yeah. So yeah, they raided them, shut them down. They've had enough.
Raid after raid after raid, over 120. The article said.
Yeah, exactly, and they've lost over $1 million of the product in the process. So, but hang on here. A page had moved, but I got it fixed. Okay, here we go. Next story. From one that closed down to...
Two, coming to us from the Sudbury Star. Magic Mushroom Dispensary opens in downtown Sudbury.
Wow. Between the trippy illustrations in its window, an invitation to walk into a new reality, you might think you were entering some kind of sci-fi or fantasy situation. But no. Shroomies really is what its name, and fungal imaginary, not to mention the 19+ warning on its door, imply a place to buy edible psychedelics.
The store, which is located in the former Elm News space at Elm and Durham, just so you know where it is Sudbury's first outlet for magic mushrooms. It opened this past Saturday when the downtown area was abuzz with a Santa parade activity, and will remain open for as long as it's quasi-legally can. We're just trying to operate no different to the weed dispensaries, said the franchise owner, Joe, who preferred his last name to be withheld. I believe in the movement and feel people need a safe place to be able to come and buy these psilocybin products without the complications of street dealers or mail strikes.
Shroomies offers dried shrooms with all their hallucinogenic promise, along with microdosing supplies and a range of edibles, gummies, teas, and chocolate bars that are infused with psilocybin. These are not wild mushrooms plucked from the rainforest, Joe said. The company, which opened in Vancouver and now counts several stores across Ontario, cultivates its mind-altering fungi in a lab.
Joe himself grew shrooms at his home in Sudbury prior to responding to a job ad with Shroomies. He applied to be a cashier, but ended up being elevated to franchise. He said he has struggled with depression since his early teens and found taking mushrooms every now and then, once or twice a year for him, was helpful for his mental health. I've been on the same antidepressants since I was about 13, and macrodosing will give me a reset when my antidepressants are no longer doing what they need to do, he said.
For those who are new to magic mushrooms and don't have this kind of experience with them, he recommends microdosing over just jumping into the deep end with these products. It's a lot easier on the system. This is how we talked about with cannabis. Start low and then build up, right? Shroomies now has stores in Ottawa, Barrie, Niagara Falls, London, Hamilton, as well as several in downtown Toronto.
Absolutely. I've been to visit the ones in Vancouver and Toronto. Magic mushrooms are not yet legal. However, in the same way that cannabis has become, and stores that sell them are often shut down by police, as occurred at locations of a chain called Fungi's in various southern Ontario cities. We are in a bit of a legal gray zone, said Joe. We can operate with retail storefronts, but we do keep getting raided due to the controlled substance laws in place for psychedelic mushrooms. It depends on the police precincts and the drug the drug issues that are present within a community for something to happen to one of our locations.
The franchisee owner stressed, however, that he will not sell mushrooms to a minor or anyone who is intoxicated, as mixing alcohol and psilocybin is very dangerous and not recommended, he says. He goes on to say he plans to install a doorbell soon and have the ability to buzz someone in so we can filter people out who are drunk and not have to hurt their feelings or fight with them.
Yeah, that's a really great idea, actually. While the store just opened on the weekend, Joe said there has already been a fair amount of interest in traffic. We have a lot of window shoppers, a lot of people just curious, asking about the legality of things, he said. And we've had a fair amount of customers as well. Shroomies is open Monday to Sunday from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. each day.
Yeah, and check out their website if you want to see what all kinds of products they got.
Yeah, I was in their flagship store in Vancouver when it first opened. And I'm not sure who the gentleman behind the counter was, but they had a lot of wonderful products, and the knowledge and the customer service was really amazing.
Good. Because customer service is as my former boss used to always say, is paramount. It's usually number one in his life.
It is.
So, alrighty, on to the next story.
Coming to us from Mugglehead Magazine, cannabis does not accelerate cognitive decline in men, Danish researchers determine.
New research published by a group of scholars from the University of Copenhagen and Copenhagen University Hospital have deduced that cannabis does not speed up cognitive decline among older males. Despite claims made by other researchers that the plant can cause schizophrenia and other mental health issues, this study has found that cannabis users are actually less likely to experience mental deterioration in their later years.
Men with a history of cannabis use had less cognitive decline from early adult to midlife compared to men without a history of cannabis use, the study authors specified in the journal Brain and Behavior on November 7th. They examined the data on 5,162 Danish men to draw their conclusion. That's a nice big,
Yeah, it's not 21 or 20, right? Now, the investigators say the new findings align with previous rodent studies showing that cannabinoids are beneficial for cognitive function and memory. Now, a study printed in the American Medical Association journal, JAMA, this September had similar findings. Authors affiliated with MIT and Harvard Medical School found that sustained usage of medical cannabis did not result in any cognitive performance changes.
Mm-hmm. Cannabis has proved itself to be useful for treating mental health ailments like PTSD, depression, and anxiety. Other studies have suggested that the plant promotes enhanced creativity, improves sleep, and other benefits linked to mental well-being. On the other end of the spectrum, a Danish-American study completed last year concluded that habitual pot consumers are more likely to end up with schizophrenia as they age. Young men in particular are more likely to end up with a mental health disorder than females, they ascertained.
Which study are we going to believe? One fifth of cases of schizophrenia among young males might be prevented by averting cannabis use disorder, the Cambridge University Press authors determined in the journal entry. A couple years earlier, an investigation published in the Nature journal Transitional Psychiatry found that those with family history of the disease would be better off not indulging in joints, edibles, or the like. And those are people that I would say they were predispositioned with it, right?
Yeah. Individuals genetically predisposed to schizophrenia may be especially vulnerable to psychotic experiences as a result of using cannabis, the Canadian and British scholars wrote. The vast amount of varying cannabis research can be quite confusing. One minute you hear about its life-altering health benefits, and the next you're told it can make you lose your mind. This is particularly bewildering when both viewpoints come from credible sources.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Bias in the selection and interpretation of data is one factor. A limited understanding of the endocannabinoid system in the brain is another. Also, frequency of use, quality, and potency of the product being consumed, which may contain harmful pesticides. I don't spray anything with mine. Sample sizes and demographics. Subjects that are already in a poor mental condition may not be the best to access.
Yeah. The debate rages on among international pot scholars. Smokers may prefer to listen to the positive studies on the plant rather than decrease their burning rate.
Well, as they said, we've been arguing this for years. Like we were back in the days treating yourself magazines, at the different shows that we did, non-cannabis events that we covered. People would talk about that. But the thing is what we were always able to show them is that the number of people who consume cannabis went up, but their percentage of schizophrenia didn't change worldwide.
I found it interesting when I was down finishing my course in Mexico. Of course, I was the only Canadian to come in to the course. I was the only Canadian out of all of the students. And I was the only one coming from a country that had a longer standing legalized cannabis law. And of course, I've been using it for quite a while before that. So it was really interesting that when we came in and we were going through some of our studies, and we were given a case study that we had to go over and go back on, would this person be a good candidate for the medicine that we serve? And this person used cannabis on a regular basis to stay off of street drugs. So it was interesting to hear the different viewpoints from the different people, depending on what they were taught by their country, to this person needs some serious help. And we went right from this person needs some serious help and they really need to go into detox, and oh my God, they're addicted to this, blah, blah, blah. To me, and I was one of the last ones to speak on it, it was kind of interesting. I said, I am thankful for cannabis because the person that talked about having to go into detox, they called it a gateway drug. And I said, I have to agree with, this person over here in the fact that it is a gateway. But for me, it was a gateway medicine. And without cannabis, I wouldn't have found mushrooms. I wouldn't have found iboga, and I wouldn't be sitting here today.
Gateway out.
Right? I would be somewhere, I'd either be dead or I'd be off on cocaine or I'd be off on alcohol. So cannabis has saved my life. And it was quite interesting to be in the middle of that conversation.
I imagine it was. It was. Alrighty, last story before we go to break.
Coming to us from StratCan, Cannabis New Brunswick launches Good to Know Cannabis Awareness Campaign.
Shout out to StratCan. We always find some good Canadian news on their website. There's no doubt about that. Yeah, Cannabis NB, the provincial cannabis regulatory and retailer in New Brunswick, has launched an education campaign aimed at informing consumers about the risks of illegal cannabis products. The campaign, called Good to Know, uses recent findings by the Research Productivity Council of New Brunswick, which showed chemical contaminants, including pesticides, found in illicit cannabis samples, particularly vaping cartridges, in the province.
The provincial agency first launched the Good to Know campaign in 2022, which at the time focused on similar testing by RPC that looked at samples of several cannabis products obtained from markets in New Brunswick, including dried flower and edibles, and tested them for things like THC levels, molds, heavy metals, and pesticides. They should have started this a lot earlier. This year's... Sorry, I'm trying to read this with a straight face. This year's the education campaign focuses on sharing information through digital displays and billboards, video ads, and Snapchat, targeting New Brunswickers 19 years and older. The campaign messaging will also be leveraged in Cannabis New Brunswick stores and on social media.
Now, according to Lori Stickles, president and CEO of Cannabis NB, she says, our commitment to safety and education is the foundation of Cannabis NB's culture. It's built into the sales experience and training of our teams. While legal cannabis must be tested for contaminants, illicit cannabis does not comply with Health Canada's good production practices. It is important that consumers have access to information, understand the risks associated with illegal cannabis, and make educated choices on quality and safety by turning to Cannabis MB and its certified private retail stores.
In 2024, Cannabis New Brunswick also participated in awareness and education activations at 2 major festivals, the Moonlight Bazaar in St. John in August and the Harvest Music Festival in Fredericton in September. Nova Scotia also recently launched a similar public education campaign. Ooh, I've seen this one. I love walking into the stores and they've got these posters up all over the place and I'm biting my lip.
Yeah, and what are the posters saying?
I mean, the same as a lot that we're seeing up here. Nobody checks illegal cannabis for poop. What else do we have here? Illegal cannabis has a lot of nasty baggage. Like they have these signs up talking about illegal cannabis. And I find this incredibly hilarious that it's even happening in New Brunswick with the whole Organi scam, a gram scam. Yeah. I did that on purpose. I really didn't have that slip of tongue. I did that on purpose. There were a lot of Canadians, because Organigram, of course, used pesticides that they weren't allowed to use, and they didn't flush properly. And this cannabis went straight across Canada through the legal process. This was, they were legal. And they shipped this out to countless patients, and a number of us, have ended up with injuries not to the cannabis, but to the illegal pesticides that the government run or the government approved agency kept putting in its thing. And it's funny that New Brunswick is talking about how they test everything and how they do everything. I found it very hard to not laugh. I am one of the people that was injured by Organigram's weed through another licensed producer that they sold to. And, I get a check once a year, as an apology for permanently injuring me. And we know others that were even worse injured than me. Like, I'm very minor.
Correct. Now, I can tell you about the Nova Scotia situation. It was actually criticized by a clinical psychologist. And he says that representing cannabis is safe and at no risk is inaccurate. And that was what Nova Scotia was saying. Was that
one of the therapists here. And if Organigram was still in charge of everything, I would tend to agree with him. But I mean, we know what cannabis can do when it's grown properly and looked after properly. Right. We are both success stories on how cannabis has helped to save our lives. To not be dramatic, but it's true.
True.
And so, I'm kind of embarrassed of that particular psychologist or psychiatrist. But sadly, that represents how Nova Scotia looks at things. A lot of the people still have blinders on here, and that makes it very difficult to talk about a lot of these medicines.
Yeah, for sure. All right, I've closed off that story because the rest of it just says that there was another, like in Ontario, they had the buzzkill thing going on. It seems to be like Alberta's had it, Nova Scotia's had it.
Yeah, bad bud is what they called it in Alberta.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, so it's just it's a thing that they're doing. I would say it's coordinated, maybe. I don't know.
Everybody decided to do it close to the same time, and it's all good.
All right. Shout out to our YouTube viewers, just so you know. Hi there, everybody. Other than that, it's time for us to take a break, and we'll be right back after our medication session. You're watching Psychedelics and Cannabis Education and News here at PACEradio.net.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at PACEradio.net.
Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, open Monday to Friday from 10 till 7 p.m. or by chance. Check out our flags, our t-shirts, plus our hats, and look of that supply of rolling papers, plus much more. We've got bongs and your favorite herbal vaporizers. Look at all the incense we have, as well as for those who collect knives, check out these knives in our collection. And while you're here, stop in to see Shay at the piercing room, where you can get poked by Shay. Daily deals. check them out. Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford, Ontario.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20, it's so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partner 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420, enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products, make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyndonega Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420. Are you looking for non-stop, continuous cannabis and psychedelic programming? If you are, then turn your browsers to 420radio.ca or paceradio.net, where you will find the 420 Pace re-rolled Saturday. Everything gets started at 8 a.m. Eastern Saturday morning.
You're listening to the P.A.C.E Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Hey, we're back from a medication session, and are you having an awesome day?
I'm having an awesome day, especially after seeing that commercial is back. Yay!
Yeah, everything's been updated, just so you know.
Yes, I see that now. Thank you for the surprise. That was awesome.
You're welcome. You'll see it on your show as well.
I'm not even going to tell them.
Okay, all right. Okay, next story of the day.
Coming to us from MSN, a mother of 3 dies at a psychedelic tea retreat in the Amazon jungle.
That's never good. A British woman who reportedly drank a tea brewed with psychedelic medicine ayahuasca has died at a health retreat deep in the Amazon rainforest. Mother of 3, Marion Rainford, 54, was staying at the ayahuasca in San Pedro Pistacha retreat in Bolivia when she died last month.
So sorry. Witnesses say she died a short time after drinking the ayahuasca tea, a mind-altering concoction made from 2 Amazonian plants, reports the Telegraph. Rainford complained of feeling ill 10 minutes following drinking the tea before her experiencing breathing troubles, they said.
Despite attempts to resuscitate her, she died an hour later and before a doctor arrived. Her daughter, Rochelle, 32, said that staff at the retreat told her that she had suffered a medical emergency.
Rochelle said that after contacting the British consulate, her mother's body was returned to the UK, and a post-mortem examination confirmed she suffered a heart attack. Oh, the funeral was held last week.
Ayahuasca is known as Yaga?
Yagi
is made from the bonus. Go ahead.
Thanks.
Okay.
Bannister Capas's Capi vine.
All right. And the leaves of the chacruna plant found in the Amazon rainforest. It's generally taken in the jungle as part of a ritualistic ceremony guided by a shaman singing traditional songs.
Yeah, in recent years, many Westerners have flocked to ayahuasca centers in the jungle as it's reported to have beneficial effects on conditions such as depression and anxiety, as well as aiding people to quit serious addictions. But outside of the Amazon, ayahuasca has an ambiguous legal status. It is classified as an illegal Class A drug in the UK.
Britain's Prince Harry, writing in his memoir Spare, admitted taking the ayahuasca therapeutically and medicinally to help him overcome PTSD suffered or linked to his mother's death.
Yeah, he made it quite famous over in the UK by doing that.
He did, eh?
Yeah, he also took other medicines. I believe he's taken peyote and 5-MeO and iboga as well.
Yeah. Now, during your education, did you learn anything about ayahuasca? Maybe.
I mean, I've learned a little bit about ayahuasca as time has gone on, and my involvement. It's not one that I have studied implicitly, but it is one very much like the one I've studied implicitly. People can have bad reactions to it. People can have allergies to it, and people really should. It's one of the ones actually out there that I've learned has probably the biggest dieta for heading into it. Most shamans want you to do a 2-week dieta where you avoid alcohol or cannabis or certain foods like that. You have to avoid sugars and salts and all the whites. And then there are other healthy foods that they don't want you to take or don't want you to eat as well. And so, yeah, it's there's a lot of prep work that needs to be done. And sadly, as the story proves, it's not always the right, like the prep work isn't always, 100%. And, we can have reactions to these medicines.
And we may not even know what actually caused the heart attack.
No, it could have been something that had absolutely nothing to do with the ayahuasca or the vines. It could have been something that no matter where she was going to have this heart attack at this time. And maybe if they had been closer to a hospital, it might have been different. Yeah. Who knows? Yeah. But hopefully the postmortem exam has told them more about whether or not this was a predisposed condition or not.
Correct. Exactly. All right. Move on to the next story. What's up?
Coming to us from Forbes, Texas AG sues Dallas over cannabis decriminalization measure.
What? Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton has filed a lawsuit against the city of Dallas and local officials, targeting a ballot measure that decriminalizes cannabis-related offenses and bars police from enforcing state drug laws. The announcement of this legal action made last week is related to Proposition R, also known as the Dallas Freedom Act, which was passed in November with a nearly 67% approval.
Yeah, the measure decriminalizes possession of less than 4 ounces of cannabis and restricts the Dallas Police Department from making arrests or issuing citations for such offenses, except in cases involving larger felony investigations. It also bars officers from using the odor of cannabis as probable cause for searches or seizures. As of today in Texas, possession of up to 2 ounces of cannabis is classified as a Class B misdemeanor, carrying a penalty of up to 180 days in jail and a maximum fine of $2,000. Possession of more than 2 ounces but less than 4 ounces is a Class A misdemeanor, punishable by up to 1 year in jail and a maximum fine of $4,000.
Just think, Canadian cannabis patients can carry just basically that amount of cannabis legally. And here they are. People are going to jail for 1 year. And Mr. Paxton, the people voted. 2/3 of the people said, hey, we want this. Are you not supposed to be representing the people? Or just your own ideology? Like, come on here, buddy. The state contends that Proposition R is preempted by Texas state law, including a health and safety code, which criminalizes the possession of cannabis, and the local government code, which obligates municipalities to enforce state drug laws fully. The lawsuit alleges that the charter amendment is unconstitutional under the Texas Constitution to extend that local laws may not conflict with state statutes. The lawsuit also argues that Proposition R bars Dallas police from enforcing misdemeanor cannabis possession laws utilizing the odor of cannabis as probable cause, or extending city funds to test cannabis substances with exceptions in those narrowly defined cases where the alleged offense is a violent or high priority narcotics felony.
Therefore, the state asked the court to nullify Proposition R, arguing Dallas exceeded its legal authority. It also asked the court to stop city officials and police from enforcing the measure and to ensure state drug laws are followed. Earlier this year, Texas AGI Paxton also sued the cities of Austin, San Marcos, Killeen, Elgin, and Denton for adopting amnesty and non-prosecution policies that he claims violate state laws on cannabis possession and distribution.
Now, as far as marijuana there, it says that Texas has not yet legalized cannabis for recreational use, but has a medical cannabis program in place under the Texas Compassionate Use Act, which passed in 2015. It also legalized the production and sale of industrial hemp and CBD products in 2019, following the Farm Bill of 2018, which legalized hemp, defined cannabis having no more than 0.3% THC, by separating it from cannabis under the Controlled Substances Act. Currently, 24 U.S. states have legalized recreational use of cannabis and 38 states for medical use.
Yeah. In the November presidential election, several cannabis-related ballot measures were proposed, but most failed. In Florida, nearly 56% voted yes to Amendment 3, which allowed adult use cannabis. However, it did not meet the required 60% threshold to amend the state constitution.
Similar ballot measures in North Dakota and South Dakota each failed to achieve majority support. Arkansas's voters could have expanded the state's medical cannabis program, but the state Supreme Court ruled prior to the election that the votes cannot be counted.
The cannabis legalization measure that passed was in Nebraska alone, making it the 39th state to legalize cannabis for medical purposes, though its validity is still being challenged in court. Meanwhile, in Texas, a lawmaker had recently filed a bill to legalize and establish a regulated market for the production and sale of recreational cannabis. However, past cannabis bills have stalled in the conservative Texas legislature, setting up the next session as potentially crucial for cannabis policy reform in the state. Now, through my course, I also met one of the gentlemen in my course was from Texas.
Okay.
And he's like, the way he explained what's going on in Texas right now, it sounds to me like 2017 Canada. There are legacy dispensaries literally all over the place, like every second street, every second corner. This guy's son actually manages one. And nobody does. People are walking down the street smoking a joint, and
so they've got a law in place that everybody's ignoring.
Everybody, police, politicians, except for this one guy. This one guy is deciding he's going to sue.
Paxton, yeah, he's a controller. Yeah,
things that are already happening, but the cops don't want to deal with legacy cannabis. They know that that's a waste of their time. They know, legalization is coming, even not just at a state level, at a federal level, and they don't want to waste their time and their resources with cannabis, something that the majority of them actually use themselves.
I wouldn't doubt it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Go Texas.
Yeah. Okay. A lot of people in Dallas. Hey, Mr. Paxton, like 2/3 of the people in Dallas want access to their cannabis. And if you're supposed to represent the people, hey?
Yeah.
All righty. On to the next story. Here we go.
Yeah, coming to us from the International Cannabis Business Conference, Denmark announces plan to make medical cannabis pilot program permanent.
Good.
Go Denmark.
The government of Denmark recently announced its plans to make its medical cannabis pilot program permanent. The pilot program, first introduced in 2018, was originally designed to help federal lawmakers and regulators gather data on other research to be better suited to craft national laws and rules. The government has issued over 20,000 prescriptions since its launch. The scheme was introduced in 2018 to give selected patient groups, example, patients with MS or cancer, a legal opportunity to be prescribed medical cannabis as part of the treatment, stated the Ministry of Interior and Health.
We can see that many patients who are prescribed medical cannabis by their doctor seem to benefit from the treatment. This applies, for example, to cancer patients who may suffer from severe nausea after treatment with chemotherapy, or people with multiple sclerosis who may have severe pain. And this is coming from the Minister of the Interior and Health, Sophie, I don't know how to pronounce it in her language, so Lodi stated. If it's up to the government, patients must continue to have a legal option to use medical cannabis, which is why we plan to make the scheme permanent. But now we have to see how parties to the agreement stand, the minister also stated.
Denmark's medical cannabis pilot trial is slated to end in 2025. The proposal to make the medical cannabis pilot program permanent still needs final approval. Now, according to I can't even figure out a name. The Ministry of the Interior and Health stated, on behalf of the government, Sophie Lohody has invited the agreement parties, SF, Liberal Alliance, In-House Listen, Dinks, Focal Party, and Alternative to negotiations on the trial scheme on medical cannabis.
Yeah. According to a recent study conducted by researchers from the Ukraine and France and published in the US as well, the National Institute of Health, 57 countries have adopted medical cannabis legalization measures. A recent market analysis by Introspective Market Research projects that the legal global medical cannabis industry will be worth an estimated $91.065 billion, and they're talking American dollars, people, by 2032. Introspective Market Research estimates that the emerging worldwide medical cannabis industry was worth over $13 billion in last year in 2023. Holy camoly, $91 billion by 2032.
Yeah, that's a big bucks, eh?
Holy cannoli. Holy that's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money.
And why are countries still saying no to getting their part of that pie? That's a big freaking pie.
It is. And some people say, well, it's only it's because of the money is why it's being legalized.
Which is fine. Like, let the people who think who aren't believers legalize for the money, because eventually they're going to watch it and become believers. So,
well, they'll know somebody. Eventually, they'll know somebody or met somebody or somebody in a family will use medical cannabis. And hey, my mother was against cannabis, but she saw the benefit that it made in me. So, Alrighty, last story of the day.
Yeah, coming to us from MSN. OPP shut down illegal cannabis storefront in Leamington.
There you go, police department. An illegal cannabis storefront in Leamington has been shut down by police, and a Chatham woman faces numerous charges. On November the 6th, officers with the Essex County OPP Community Street Crime Unit and the OPP-led Provincial Joint Force Cannabis Enforcement Team searched Island Fire Cannabis in Leamington.
Police said that they seized quantities of illegal dried cannabis and other illegal cannabis products, including edibles, shatter, and vape cartridges, with an estimated value of $13,500. Police advise with the shutdown of the storefront, anyone who wishes to enter the premises must apply to the Superior Court of Justice for permission.
Entering the building without authorization can lead to arrest and charges of break and enter. Now, 39-year-old Chatham woman has been charged with possessing cannabis for the purpose of selling, possession of illicit cannabis, and possession of proceeds of property obtained by crime under $5,000.
The accused was released from custody and is scheduled to appear before the Ontario Court of Justice in Windsor on December 30th. the Provincial Joint Forces Cannabis Enforcement Team, you know what? They probably spent way more than $13,500.
Oh, they did. Oh, I guarantee they did.
The Provincial Joint Forces Cannabis Enforcement Team, which also includes the members of the Windsor Police Service, investigates illegal cannabis incidences and focuses on the apprehension of those who produce, sell, distribute, import, export, and the use of cannabis outside the parameters of the law. Like, I mean, $13,500 worth of cannabis. They've arrested this woman, and they probably spent at least $27,000 doing the investigation and going through it all.
Yeah, and they're not done. They're not done. They're still adding to that cost, but she's got to go to court and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so obviously there wasn't much in the way to supply. It was either a very good day or maybe supplies were just kept low, or, just never know. Someone could walk in and...
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of places do that. They only keep enough there that, like they might go through that in a day or two, and then everything else is off-site at a different place with a different person. But no matter what, like, they spent at least, I would say, pushing $30,000 so far. And like you say, more to go to court. And, judges and court attorneys, and that's not cheap.
Yeah. And if they can't afford a lawyer and they got to use, what do you call those lawyers?
Yes, we're paying for that. So now our tax dollars of pushing probably $40,000 or more dollars by the end of it have gone into arresting this woman, investigating this woman, charging this woman, taking her to court for $13,500 worth of product, and probably product that wouldn't cause the issues that the Organigram product caused.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All righty. That's the news for today. You got anything else you want to mention?
I don't think so. I'll see everybody tomorrow.
Tomorrow? Got a guest name?
I do. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Like, what is his name? We have a gentleman. He's coming on from Ontario. He manages a dispensary out there. Oh my goodness. His name is, oh, come on. Up in Smoke is the name of the, where's his last name? His name is Matthew. Welcome, Matthew. We don't have his last name. He is the owner-operator of Up in Smoke Cannabis Retail Store. What's cool, there's two things that are really cool about him. He, Up in Smoke actually sponsored, was one of the people involved in sponsoring the Spirit Plant Medicine Conference this past year. So cannabis has now stepped in as vendors. We had cannabis people for vendors at the Spirit Plant Medicine Conference, which was really, really cool. And also Up in Smoke is one of the first legal coast-to-coast Canadian mail-order marijuanas. So he is a mom, and he can legally ship to me here in Nova Scotia from Vancouver, British Columbia, which is really amazing. So now, if there are BC-only products, I can now get my hands on them, which is just really cool.
Oh, yeah. We know some of those products. Yeah. Yeah. All righty. Other than that, that's our news report for today from the Legacy420.com news desk. That's the P.A.C.E news. As I said, thanks to our buds at Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, Limestone City, Hydroponics.ca, Legacy420.com, and At-Eze.ca. In closing, thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to educate, medicate, and do not incarcerate. Bye.
You're listening to the P.A.C.E Radio Network here at PACERadio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20, it's so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partner 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420, enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products, make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyendinaga Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at PACEradio.net.